Please ask the host to give you.
Ta-da! There we go.
Perfect. Okay.
Emma,
We've had tech over tech.
What a mess. Oh, I'm Tiffany Lorraine, the resilient mother, and this has been quite an experience just getting this interview to happen with all the tech. So look, yay us for being resilient and making it happen, Emma. Let me introduce Emma. This is Emma Ferrick, and tell me a little bit about yourself and what brought you to our summit.
My name is Emma Ferrick. I'm the owner and founder of Elf Operations. I'm the mother of two beautiful little girls, and I am a systems and operations strategist. And I guess kind of what drew me to the summit is I feel like if you're going to be an entrepreneur and you're going to be a mom, you have to be pretty resilient. And we are shaping we're all about being there for our kids, making it happen, and shaping their future. So
yeah, the mothers shaped the future. Resilient Summit, shaping the next resilient generation is what we're all about. Oh, please forgive the sound there. That's my next interview.
Oh no.
There we go. So, how are you resilient? How is what you do applicable to our theme of resilience?
Well, I feel like what drew me to the summit and I felt would be beneficial for the audience to hear and to just share my story, because that is such a huge part of why I started my business, was to be resilient enough to even get there, which I know a lot of women struggle with, to even start their business, because I felt like there were so many obstacles in my way. I just had left a domestic violence relationship. There was court cases. I was working full time. I just graduated. My daughter at the time wasn't even 1 year old. So I really felt like I was at rock bottom in my life. There was just turmoil, personal things going on between family deaths. My dad had a stroke. So it's like all this stuff was happening at once, and I felt so overwhelmed. And that threw me down the path of, okay, I need to be a better version of myself for my daughter. I didn't want her to grow up in a household that her mother and her father didn't know how to show each other love. And I didn't want her to grow up seeing that it was okay for one parent to treat the other parent like that, between the domestic abuse or the physical abuse, the financial abuse, emotional, all of the things. So I decided to leave, and as I started healing and getting the help I needed through that journey, it led me to really feel compelled to start my own business, because I was always told, you're too stupid, you're not going to be able to do it, you don't have what it takes. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to prove everyone wrong. Well, not everyone, but really my abuser wrong. This is going to be such a good way for me to heal and just feel like take back so much control over my life financially, because I was on a single income. So I didn't want to have to rely on him anymore. I just wanted to have a clean slate and provide for my daughter and show her, if mommy can do this, you can do whatever you want. So that is kind of my story. And then there's been ups and downs, of course, since starting my business. Like most entrepreneurs probably can relate to, like when to quit my full-time job, having to get the support from my now fiance and all those things. But I've kept pushing, and every time I felt like I'm going to quit, on the other side has been, I actually just wrote a post about this today after like our many failed attempts. Like every time I felt like giving up or quitting or having like this big mental breakdown, that has been the next greatest and biggest shift in my business. Like this time last year, I was like only making $2,000 in my business, and I wanted to quit. And my fiance is like, just stick it out. Like, you never know, like just give it 1 more month or 2 more months. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. And I had my best month, and then my second best month. And then I was like, okay, there's some momentum here. And so I was so glad that I stuck it out.
What I'm hearing in your story is the thing that kept you going was, one, your love for your daughter, which is something all of us mothers definitely use to help motivate us to do anything, especially to be resilient. But also I keep hearing this theme of you kept looking to the future of something better, that you wanted to be a chain breaker, that abuse was going to stop with you. And that was what kept you focused, no matter what hardships came, as you had that vision in mind. Would you say that's kind of your resilient superpower, is you were like, I see the vision, I see it, I'm going for it, and nothing's going to stop me?
Sometimes it's like, it was hard to see the vision. And I know a lot of women that I've spoken with since then, it's hard for them to see their vision clearly when it's all like, because, you know, we do this for our kids, but then there's days that, like today, when we were trying to record earlier, our kids make us want to not do it. Because I've had that thought of like, it would just be simpler if I didn't have this business and I was a stay-at-home mom, especially because I just had my second 3 months ago. So going back to work after that, I was like, it would be easier to just quit, but I would know I'd be unhappy. I wouldn't be able to impact other women's lives. I wouldn't get to, I wouldn't feel fulfilled. So yeah, I feel like a big theme of that is I didn't want to be another statistic. So a phrase I always have is like, I wanted to thrive, not just survive. And I just kept
Who
repeating that.
doesn't need to hear that right now? We need this positive news. We need to know
Yeah.
that there are heroes' journeys. There are success stories coming out of all of this. And what I love best is your example of leaving the abuser and getting help, what you needed, and sticking for it. Because too often people stay because they just believe the things that are being dumped at them to keep them down and keep them controlled and keep them codependent. I've experienced some abuse myself in my relationships, and not completely evident at the time.
Yeah.
And some of it not intentional. Generational patterns definitely need to be broken there. And I'm a chain breaker as well. So what would you say to a woman that's down and that doesn't know what her resilient superpower yet, that can't quite see that vision yet, and is just in a moment of needing some inspiration or motivation to keep going?
So I feel like one of the most recent things said to me was like from a coach that I have now. She was like, and my fiance said something very similar to me when I was starting, was if you could see what I see in you, like you wouldn't be doubting yourself. Like if you need to borrow some of my belief in you, do so. And I was always like, oh, that's so good, because you know, when I'm being hard on myself, you know, there's other people on the outside looking in who see things so differently. So your biggest critique is you, and most of the lies that your head is telling you are just to keep you small. It's not. It's scared to go to that next place because you've never been there. And I always tell Charlotte this, like my daughter, the hardest time is the first time. It gets easier every time. Like the first sales call I had was the scariest. The first time I went live on Instagram or Facebook was the scariest. The first time I was on a podcast, like all those things that come up, like, but it's once you do it so many times, it's like you start to believe, oh yeah, like the grass is greener on the other side. Like it's not a lot. It's not like my subconscious is just trying to keep me safe, like all that stuff of, it doesn't want you to go where you haven't gone because it's scared. Like, but it is better if you have faith in yourself.
Well, and also if you know how the brain works, we have patterns in our mind. So it's really a pattern from something in the past that could be as far back as childhood. It's not real. You
Right.
can't. What happened in the past isn't real anymore. It's a memory. It's just a pathway, a pattern that can be broken. And I think that's what resilience really is learning what's your pattern that doesn't serve you and how do you break it and turn it into a pattern that does serve you. Because then you realize that's something you can change. It's not just the way you are. It is totally flexible. But sometimes it takes more effort than others. And do you have one moment that was a key decision in your path to do what you're doing, whether that's a moment with your daughter to teach her resilience or a moment with yourself that really stands out in your mind you'd like to share?
Yeah, I feel like the first year in business was so hard for me because I was still so fresh in the healing process and dealing with just trying to break free from that abuse and that mental gunk. Like you said, it's all about changing your thoughts, but I hadn't learned all of the like skills that I have now from like a lot of the women that I've met online because of their business. And I hadn't really learned to love myself or to, you know, it was a lot of work, like you said, like being hyper aware of my own patterns, my bad patterns, and being conscious enough to be like, oh, I know what I'm doing here. I'm trying to sabotage, because I would do that with my now fiance all the time. And whenever things got hard in business or in life, I would dump on him. Like I would full on attack him and just like dump on him. And there was one time I remember specifically, like I had put a bunch of like I invested so much in my business to start, like, because I heard, you know, from coaches and experts, like you have to invest to grow, you have to invest to grow. But I had nothing to invest really, because I was paying all this money into, you know, student loans, daycare, things like that. So it was like this one moment where I was bawling because I felt like so attacked from my abuser still. I was trying to juggle everything, just like felt on the weight of my shoulders. And I was like, you know what? Stop feeling sorry for yourself. You're not, like, people go through worse.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of just had to tell myself that. I was like, you know, stop feeling sorry for yourself. You can be a victim and you can stay in victimhood, or you can put the work in that you need to put the work in. So I was like, I just was like, I had to really focus the next couple months and be hyper aware of what were my sabotaging behaviors, especially with him, and just be totally vulnerable and be like, look, this is what's happening. I don't know how to fix it. Can you please help me? Because I didn't want help. I didn't know, but I didn't know what to do.
Yeah. What would you say to somebody that's about to break through the other side, that's about to leave an abuser? What could you say to them to give them encouragement to do so and to know that they're worth more than how they're being treated?
That's so heavy, because there is so much, and there's so many different things you want to say to people, because a lot of women, it took me a lot of tries. So don't feel embarrassed if you have tried before and it didn't work. The average, I believe, statistic is it takes people, women or men, if you're in the situation, 7 times before you can actually leave. Like I moved my stuff out multiple times, went right back, but it was hard. But there are resources, there are people there are resources who actually want to help you, and you are worth so much more than what they're telling you. They've isolated you to make you feel like that. And if your gut is telling you that something's wrong, you should probably listen to your gut and stop ignoring the red flags, because that's what I did for such a long time, is I ignored all the red flags. And I just was like, okay. And I would say, like, it's me, because he would say, it's you. You're the crazy one. You're the one who needs to go to therapy. Like,
And
I was even in therapy and
Mhm.
hiding it from the therapist. So it took a lot of just acceptance. You have to be able to accept it first, and then really commit to going through it, because it is going to be an uphill battle, but you can make it through. Like the courts, I know, suck sometimes. Some people won't believe you. Like I've had problems with police officers. I've had,
Mhm.
you know, public attorneys. I've had other paid attorneys that have like given me crap, and I'm like, I know in my heart and I know in my gut that this is what I need to do, and that this is the path, even if it's the path less walked upon or less chosen, that this is right for my situation. So if you know it's right for you and your family and your kids, then just keep at it, and people will start to see the truth.
Yes, that's something I've experienced myself, is just holding out with the truth, and the truth will reveal itself in time. So just hold true to yourself despite what you may or may not know is going on in some cases.
Yep.
But what would you say to them being on the other side? Like that, it is going to be hard, but it's worth it, right?
Oh, it's so worth it. I look back at the past 3 years where I was at the lowest of the low, and then like I said, I just had my second. I'm getting good emotional because I'm still hormonal, but like looking back at all this hard work, and like I'm about to take a couple of trips this year, and it was like on my bucket list to take trips with my kids and have this business, and it's like everything that I've worked so hard for in the past 2 years is finally coming to fruition. Like, I'm not going to say I'm out of it, of the court stuff, and I'm out of it, because I'm not. We're still in the
I'm
thick of
not
it.
either.
Exactly. Like, I got a letter today that we have to go back to court in August after all this stuff, but it's like, I'm in a place where I'm so comfortable with me that I'm not going to let his stuff get to me anymore. And like, I'm rooted in myself. So once you can get to that point where you're like, I feel good with me, you're going to start to see all these changes, and it will get better. And you just have to be, for me and a lot of other women that I've talked to who've gone on the self-healing journey, especially with entrepreneurship, when you have your goals in mind, and you have those at the forefront, not like, and you just work at that, your path just opens up. And when you're starting to think of like that, it'll start happening. I don't know. That sounds really like woo. And I thought that was woo when I first started, but once I stopped resisting it, it started to work. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to trust it. If all I have to do is change a thought, why not?
What kind of practices did you do to become mindful of that? What were some of the healing practices or tools that you used that helped you be resilient and helped you to now be going from surviving to thriving?
Yeah, I just laugh because I have a little mini Instagram series that's called Thrive Over Survive. So I use that term like quite a bit. There has been a lot, and I really am so thankful that for the women that I've met, like I've mentioned before, because they opened my eyes to it. Like, I worked as a VA for this woman who does what she calls inner healing sessions. So it's very spiritual based, and she coaches people how to conduct these, and will set, like, they have these sessions with women who or men, whoever, to help them really get in alignment. And it's all about your religious beliefs. So I did a couple of sessions like that. That's been amazingly helpful and not like mainstream, or I wouldn't have known about it. I've done rapid transformation therapy, a couple of sessions of those with a coach that I know who does that. And then getting really aware of my personality type when I first left, because I was in traditional therapy, and my therapist actually.
So did you do some personality tests along the way with that?
Yeah, she really incorporated that into our therapy, and like that healing was, okay, my personality type is actually when it's at my lowest form, because I did an Enneagram test. And when I'm at my lowest of like self or being, however you want to word it, I'm so more likely to just like be viable for other people's approval. But when I'm at my highest self, I'm just like very helpful. I'm a helper. That's like the Enneagram, I think, name is like, I'm a helper. And so I really am just empathetic, and I want people's approval. And so being aware of my personality type and the subconscious, that really helped. And I read a lot of books about narcissistic abuse and just abuse in general. And that felt really good to hear, because I felt like, oh, I'm like an odd person out. Like, no one's going to understand. But reading a lot of those books, it outlined their journey, and it mirrored mine so much that I'm like, oh, okay, this makes sense. I'm not.
And that was not okay. What happened was not okay.
Yeah.
It was right. My gut was right. My intuition was right. I'm not the only person this has happened to. Yes, absolutely. When I started hearing Lisa Romano's YouTube videos on narcissism, or started seeking out things, it was like, oh, check. Oh, check. Oh, check. Oh, yep, that's me. Oh, well, but here's what I can do about it. Like, that's what I love too.
Yes.
Like, there are solutions, and it isn't just you. It's not okay to be treated inhumane. It's not okay to be gaslighted and blamed and it's not okay. It's not okay to be controlled, or to be made to feel like you are codependent, and you don't have a right to be an individual. You need someone. So it's wonderful when I hope others can be really inspired by that in your story, because I think there are so many women living below their potential that they don't understand how important they are. And especially as mothers, as we are the foundation of society, we are creating children that need to see mothers go through what you went through, as tough as that was, and as tough as divorce has been on my kids, I am seeing wisdom. I'm seeing strength in them from seeing lessons and seeing the harder times. They appreciate what they have more. I think they're going to be a lot better for it and better prepared for whatever's coming in the world, versus they're not going to be stuck in victim mode. They're not going to be stuck in blaming somebody else for their choices. They're going to see that no matter what comes at you in life, you can get through it and you get to decide what happens. But you can't sit back. You do have to be proactive. And I think that's the other key with being resilient. And look at all the proactive things you did to get yourself there. And I'm hoping people get a little tidbit on that. So some of them were healing practices that you did for yourself. You focused on yourself. I hear that in your story. I hear being loved and motivated by your daughter and the want for family and healthy family, and that example for her. And then the vision of the future, holding to that. I hear those three things in your story. Is there anything else that you think anchors resilience to what you do? I guess the other thing is that now you're turning it around and giving back to others. Like, it just didn't turn into, this is my tragic story. This is my tragic past. No, this is my transformation story. This is my comeback story. Let me help you have yours, is what it feels like. So it's turned into now being a cheerleader for those that need to know they're not alone. Anything you want?
I listened to a lot of podcasts and hearing their story made me feel like, okay, you can do it. So I'm like, I never wanted to share my story. I was like, this is embarrassing. But once I got comfortable for the first couple times, like the first time was the scariest. I almost puked when I shared my story on a podcast. But I was like, in my gut, I could feel if this helps one person, if someone hears this and feels inspired, like, and I've had so many people reach out in my DMs from sharing it, not just women who have been abused or gone through it. I've had men reach out to me saying, like, fathers of daughters, like, thank you for sharing your story, like helping people become more aware. Because silence is never the answer. And keeping yourself like pretending like it didn't happen and putting the makeup on the bruises and not reaching out, like, you're not helping yourself.
Even if those bruises are invisible, like, they're mental, not just physical.
Exactly.
There is mental abuse and you shouldn't have to hide it. You shouldn't be depressed. You shouldn't be near suicidal. Those are not normal things in any relationship, and those are not okay either. A broken arm is one thing, a bruise is one thing, but the mind is also very vulnerable too. And then you also talked about financial abuse. That's a control thing too, that you aren't capable of making your own money. You're not capable of anything. You need me. That's also abuse. So us that have been through it can recognize it a little bit easier. And I guess that's why we're both wanting to voice it right now, is like, see the sign, see the red flags. And when you see the red flags, run. Don't make exceptions. Don't, oh, he loves me. Oh, he'll change. Or the situation will change. It doesn't change. You can get a new house, new job, new whatever. If they're not willing to change, they don't see the problem. They're not going to change. The only person you can control is you. I guess that's the other part of resilience I'd really like to emphasize from this story is you decided to leave. You decided to better your life. You decided what you wanted and you went for it. And you didn't let anyone else decide that for you. And they couldn't. And you can't control what they do. You can't control they're taking you back to court. But you can just be like centered. Like you said, I'm me. I'm going to keep living my life, doing what I do. I'm going to keep living my vision. And therefore it will happen because you're manifesting it. So this
one
is
thing wonderful. I would like to add, I know we're getting close to time, but one thing I would like to add for anyone going through this, because this was something big for me. You have to have real faith in trust in your relationship with your kids, because that was something my abuser would always throw back into my face, was like, she's going to love me more. All this stuff about choosing him. And that was like my biggest irrational emotional fear, especially as a mother. Like, I just want my kid to be safe. I want them to love me. I want to have a great relationship with them. So you have to trust and know that if you put your best foot forward for them, then they're always going to come back to you. Like, they're always going to have that bond with you. So don't worry about their bond, worry about your bond with them.
And again, it's the truth thing. The children are eventually, as they mature, as they see the patterns in their parents' lives, they're going to know the truth too. So don't worry about shoving it on them. in your young age, and be very careful what you say about the other person. That child is still both of those parents, so their self-esteem is still affected by both. So it is really important to cherish that and just trust the truth will come out, and they'll make their own decisions someday. They're their own individual too. You can't control what they do. You can love them, you can be consistent, and you can show up for them. Those are the things you can do, just like you should be doing that for yourself. So that's how it applies for children for sure. This has been wonderful. Now I want to have a little fun, because that's me.
Yes.
We've been sitting for
lighten it
like
up.
25 minutes now, and I don't sit. So let me find some license-free music here. 1 second. And we are going to do a little dance party. So what is your best Zoombox dance move?
I've never been asked that question, so this is interesting.
Have you ever had to dance in the box before? I mean, we're in the box, right? So it has to fit within the frame. That's what I mean by dance box. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, oh man, I'm just an embarrassing dancer in and of itself. I have to have a lot of drinks for me to dance usually.
Well, I'll give you a couple of mine, and then you can kind of see what you can come up with. Let's see here. Let's get something good.
This is a good icebreaker. I should keep this in mind for like a team huddle or something.
Oh yeah.
Like new people.
Okay, I prefer one that didn't have words. Hold on a second. There we go. That's the one I had picked earlier. All right.
Oh, this is nice.
All right, so this is one of mine that I like, pointing to the corner.
I feel like this would be
Like,
too that I could
1,
dance.
2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Oh, I like that. Oh,
I'm just like crossing my arms because I'm like, oh, this is what I do normally.
We'll call yours the cross. I like to do this, like the wave.
There you go.
Let's celebrate you. Let's just dance. Life is good when you let it be. Woo! Resilience. Or you can just do fingers.
Oh, that's funny. That one makes sense.
You could try robot. I don't know.
Oh, my daughter is like the best dancer. She'll bust out and dance, and I'm like, where did you get this? Where? She went back upstairs and out. She was in here for a little bit.
All right, I won't torture you too much longer. All right.
So she'll tell me, you're embarrassing me. I'm like, you're 4. How am I embarrassing you?
You're not old enough to be embarrassed yet.
I know. What the heck?
Oh, thank you so much for giving me of your time and being so persistent. What we were referring to earlier is we've tried to get on Zoom, 10 times today, and it would not let us get on. We had to think of every solution under the book to finally show up here today. And I think it's just because we have a pretty powerful message that unfortunately I think is a little too common right now with the amount of single family homes there are, with the amount of divorce that's going on. Abuse is not okay. It's never okay. And I hope that's the biggest takeaway you can get, is that you can find your resilient superpower that will let you break free from abuse and any negative pattern in your life. And for you, it was, again, loving your child, having a vision, and I lost
Living
it.
in the future.
Yes.
Focusing on the future.
And the future. Yes, yes. Well, and then being consistent with being in tune with yourself through it all, like not losing that center and intuition that you found in yourself again. So this is
a lot easier said than done, if anyone's listening.
But you can do it. That's
you
what
can do it.
You can do it. You can be resilient.
You can do it.
You can. Yes, you can. Well, this is Tiffany Lorraine, the Resilient Mother. I'm going to sign off, and we'll be having more speakers here. Again, Emma, thank you for joining me. It's an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you. I'm so glad we connected.
Yeah, bye.